Okay, on today's video, we're going to talk about and answer the question, the big question, when should I pull the plug on a PPC campaign or on other online advertising campaign that I'm running right now? The answer is not a simple one-liner here, but it is actually, it can be summed up in a video, which is actually inspired me to make this video in the first place. I want you guys to know, if you're already trying to, start an advertising campaign for yourself, you're just trying to wonder, is this ever going to work? This will put it into complete frame of reference. Should you keep going? Should you stop? Sometimes, certainly, you stop. There's times to stop. There's times to keep going. The question is knowing which. Okay? So I'm going to tell you if it's too early to stop or too late, or you should have stopped already, basically, in this video. And whether you should pull the plug at all, basically, on the ad campaigns that you're running, whether it's Google, Facebook, whatever. Okay? So basically, I'll get started here with a quick background. Lots of people who never done online advertising anymore, who never done online advertising before, basically 80% will never make it work as they do not understand the answer to this basic question, which is the title of this video here. In other words, if you're asking yourself, when should I stop or should I keep going? If that's the question you're asking yourself and you're already let's say 2 months, 3 months deep into what you're doing already, that's a big, the people who normally never make any money for PPC, generally speaking, are actually asking themselves that question exactly during the process. So if it's if this is happening to you, you want to get out of that. But it's real simple to not be in that position in the first place. If you just get yourself out of that position, you will most likely make money from your PPC and go on to go quite a bit of money, potentially millions of dollars a year, once you've built up a good strategy for yourself. So with that, they get into it. So in other words, they start to advertise 2 months in, they go, I don't think this is working. Should I stop? Should I let it keep? Should I try giving it a chance? Let it go for a little longer? So what? But then within that, and just to step backwards here, yes, 80% of people who do PPC never make any money or very, very little, and that is for several reasons, which I'm going to touch on here. But the main things are that they give up too early in the process. They expect it to work, in other words, faster than it's supposed to, and I'm going to go through that, but it doesn't work like a light switch. Google has data on all their users, as does Facebook, as to pretty much all other big advertising networks online, and they got to do, through machine learning, figure out your offer, your site, how it should match up to the customers or prospects that they have. It's not just about, okay, I'm advertising on XYZ keyword, either it works or it don't. There's all these other data points and things that are going on behind the keyword for Google to match up. Maybe if there's 100 types of people who search for this exact one keyword, it will work for this 20% here that have all these other traits, but if they have these other traits, it doesn't work. And so you will never know basically if you have the potential or not if you stop too early in the process. Never gave Google a chance to optimize what they have on their side to optimize, which is outside of what Google gives you to optimize on your own. You need time and you need data to do that. So they'll give up too early thinking that it is what it is, it doesn't work, whatever. Or they don't ever know to make the changes to get it to work. So on the flip side, Google makes their own optimizations on their side when you're running ads. The same thing goes on Facebook as well, right? They have all the data on all their users. They buy data from other vendors. That for a long time they would, for instance, buy data from Apple. So anything you typed on your phone, Facebook will buy that data. That's why their ads work so well, because they understand what you want, when you want it, and they can analyze thousands of data points on each user to understand the things that usually leads to a certain purchase of a certain thing. And what you're really buying is access to that data when you run an ad. But there are things that you can change yourself, like not running your ads against male versus female, or mobile versus desktop, or the age demographic, or what state the user's from, whatever. So they run the ads, but they don't know to make the changes they need to make that's available to them to get it to work, because Google / Facebook / whoever is not going to do it completely on your own unless you wait a really long time. I will admit, if you run ads if you have unlimited money, you turn on an ad, eventually that thing's going to work, because through brute force and trying everything, these ad networks will eventually figure out who your customer is. Us everyday Joes out there and Janes who have limited money, you got to be able to do some optimization on your end. And so people expect not to have to put much work in. They spend 15 minutes setting up their ads, and then that's basically mostly all they're going to do before determining if it works or not. That generally is not going to cut it, especially in competitive markets. So, but not only that, they're not, willing to do it, but they also are not set up to actually do it. You got to be able to tell what works from what doesn't work, because, the Pareto principle applies here as it does in most other places in life. 20% of what you do works, the 80% don't. You got to be able to figure out what the 80% is that doesn't work, so you can get it out of your system, out of your ad campaigns, so that to get an ad campaign to actually be profitable after expenses, your product costs, your service costs, your general overhead, your ad costs, your management fees to anybody helping you run the ad, so on and so forth. So they stop too early, or they don't know how to make the changes / wait too long. They won't even have the ability to know what works, what doesn't work, which means they don't have tracking set up, because that will do that for you. And because they don't have tracking, then they basically keep the ads running, but it's blissful ignorance at that point. They don't know that the ads are not working, not actually generating a profit after all their expenses, so they just run the ads for a long time, which is why, by the way, if you don't want to copy people blindly, a lot of people are running ads for years. It's not even making money. They just don't have tracking set up. And just because they're a big company does not mean that's not the case. Actually, it's more likely the big company's running the ads and they're not working than the little company, because they could afford to keep running the ads. The little guy will run out of money first. So anyway, that's the general idea behind this stuff, and determining why 80% of people don't have their ads work. They don't know the answer is definitively, should I keep this going because it's working and I know that, or am I, and should I, give it more time, basically, because I need to do a few more things that I need to know that I need to do to get it actually working. And so anyway, to put this into more precise terms, in general, there's going to be when you get started with any ad campaign, doesn't matter what network it's on, basically, because of the machine learning and the process I described that the ad networks themselves do, and then you have to optimize, you're going to see a growth curve of basically your results going up over time. And so what people don't recognize is you don't get, as I was alluding to before, you don't get all your results all in one shot. It's not a light switch like people want it to be. And by the way, if it was so easy as you could get in your market, you could turn on the ads, and in 2 weeks the ads were working, guess what? There would be no opportunity. Your competitors would have did this 5 years ago. This Google ads and Facebook ads, they're not new programs. Your advantage and your edge in your market is knowing the information I'm giving you here, because most people are going to try it, they're going to quit, like I said. Or they're not going to take it seriously enough to know if it's working or not. They're not going to set up tracking right. Even if they have an agency, they're not going to set up the tracking because they want to pull the wool over their eyes. And so you doing it the right way, basically, you're the only 20% that's going to do it the right way. Therefore, you're going to be the one that makes all of the money, okay? So if you want to be in that 20%, you got to expect, and this is the way that it is anyway, if you don't give up on it too early, and you did the minimum things you need to make this work right, which I'm going to go over here in a minute, the growth rate in which your profit on the campaign that you're investing in, usually have a static budget going in. You got $1,000 a month, $2,000, $3,000 a month, whatever. then you run your ads. That tight or standard static budget, the amount of money you actually physically make on it after expenses, or just say after ad spend, whatever, it'll grow, but it's not again, not a light switch. You're going to expect, what you're really trying to do is you're trying to compound your gains. 1 month, you'll get some results. Then you're going to compound those results on next month's, and then the next month's, and then the next month's, building on what Google or Facebook or what have you learned about your ads last month, and then try to find new things to add to that, and then more things and more things and more things. And eventually, when Google or Facebook has figured out enough about your offer, it works. And the same thing with identifying through your tracking should you be advertising to Texans or Californians, or Californians are worth half of what Texans are, so I'm going to bid half as much there, that kind of thing. So using your data and letting the ad platforms work on your behalf, you'll compound your results. And so respectively, you'll see a growth curve kind of like this. You might have a little bit of results, and then the second month, you have a little bit of results the first month, and then maybe 10% more profit than you had the first month, the second month, and then 10% more the third month, and then 10% more the fourth month, and then you get to like maybe 6 or 7 months. It might be earlier. It's different depending on what business you have, i.e. the more competitive it is, usually the longer it takes to hit this kind of, there's kind of an unleashing point, if you will. You'll hit maybe 6 or 7 months, and then it'll start to go up a lot, because now there's a bare minimum amount of understanding about your ads there that they can really start to scale the ads. They'll still not generally, a lot of times once you hit that point, it's not profitable yet, it's just your rate of improvement will grow. But as you know, if you just compound 10% on top of 10% on top of 10%, at some point the 10% is going to be, it's exponential growth still. So, but normally what I see is it's slow, slow, slow. We'll hit a certain point in which the ads they'll start to open up. Then it'll go up faster, and then, it might be at month 11 we hit a profit after all expenses and there's money left over, which that's the holy grail point, because if you get there, then everything else you do, you could try to take some of your leftover profit to try out a few new ads. Maybe it's on a new platform, whatever. And then you do the same thing there, and that's how you build up ad campaigns that make, several $1 million a year. You just constantly add 10% of what you're spending on PPC or online advertising goes to something new that you don't expect to work right away. It has a certain amount of time to work, and then you take the profit from that to do something else new. And the people spending 50 grand a month in your ad space, in your market, if you have one, they didn't get there and show up with 50 grand a month. They started at 3 grand a month, and they did exactly what I just told you there. So in terms of profit, that's more so the reality of what you should expect. And the people that are really big in your space doing a lot of ads, that's how they started out as well. So if you want to be like them, you got to go through this process like everybody else. What I always tell people is, okay, you can't expect it to work right away. So what can you afford to lose up front that you could settle for, so that you're going to be able to get this to work for you eventually? So yes, everybody wants lots of results right away. Okay, well, what can we afford to lose every month to where it wouldn't affect our business if we got 0 sales from it? $3,000 a month, okay, whatever. We'll invest the $3,000, and we're going to go into it like our life depends on it, that $3,000 has to work. We're going to do the things I'm going to mention, and we're not going to stop working on it until we hit profitability with that $3,000. Then we're going to go to $4,000, and then $5,000, and then keep going it. And it's all a downhill slide once you hit the base level of profitability. Like I said, you're reinvesting. There's no more money out of your initial investment in your pocket out of your pocket to keep growing it. So you can think of everything you do before you hit initial profitability on that starting spend that you're not expecting to even make any money right away, but it's just an investment in PPC in general as an investment to your future. It's just an investment in future revenue and a system that can create future revenue and profit for your business. So don't worry if you lose it. Even if you have to spend 30 grand the first year to get something to work, you'll make that 30 grand per month back when you hit your 3 or 4 or 5. You got to think about this in perspective. And again, If it took $500 to get an ad campaign to work and it was working in 2 weeks, your competitors would already be doing it. So anyway, this growth curve here, in terms of results, i.e. profit, it'll go up and it'll vary depending on what business you have. For a local lead generation campaign, plumbers, foundation repair, medical clinic, whatever. Generally speaking, those markets are way less competitive. So therefore, being it less competitive, generally speaking, you can get it to work faster because most of the people you're against are going to really be half, assing it basically. So if you show up and just put any kind of serious effort into it, it'll work faster. And there's just less competitors in general, respectively. And that may not be necessarily true in your local market, but mainly it's because it's less competitive. So instead of this growth chart, this dotted line says where the profitability hits. And in this case, a month 11 we hit it. We may be able to hit profit. Instead of this drawn out line here, it'll be more so like that. So in exchange of, obviously there's less at stake here. So if there was more money in the business, generally speaking, it doesn't matter what niche you're in, the more money it would usually take up front to get it to work. Because the bigger players get into markets that have more potential and are willing to invest more. And when people have more money, they wanted to get into more different market that has even more potential. So the bigger pool you play in, the more money you're going to generally need for your ads, basically starting out. For the local campaign, yes, it'll work right away, but you'll only be able to make maybe $5-10 million a year, and that's it. Whereas in some of these markets, you can make $100 million, and so therefore the stakes are higher. It takes more money to get into it. So therefore, if you're a national lead generation, you're generating leads from your PPC, but you're doing it for a national campaign. Usually this means like a B2B, selling to businesses. You're doing consulting work, or you're doing like you're offering call center services, whatever. It'll take then a little longer. And these are averages, by the way. I'll usually get profitability with ads on a local lead generation campaign in 3 months. Whereas if I'm doing national lead generation, given the stakes are higher, like I said, 3 to 6 months is the average for me. So doesn't mean it will be 3 to 6 months. It means an average. I'm just giving you ballparks here, and I'll tell you how to know what to expect here in the next steps. If you're an e-commerce business, national e-commerce, not like locally, of course, even though 99% of e-commerce is national, that time frame usually stretches to 6 to 12 months. And this is the big one where I have clients all the time coming in, and they try it out for 3 months and they're ready to give up with their current ad agency. And I say, so you need to go back to your ad agency and tell them what to expect, because you didn't even tell them what results you expected. So how can you say that they failed? Give them 6 more months. If they fail, then they suck at that point, and then you can come back. But it's in 3 months to expect an e-commerce campaign where you're going against people, frankly, who have running their ads for 5 years. They got 5 years of refinement of their ads behind you. You really think it's going to be that easy to take it away from them? So anyway, how do you actually determine what this is actually going to be and put yourself in position to win? All comes down to the preparation that you do. It's like art of war. People who win at war are better prepared than others. And PPC you can think of as war. Really, it is. Everybody knows that Facebook exists. Everybody in your space wants those customers. Who gets them is the person who generally is just going to be the most prepared here. You need to know where your profit line is before you start your ad campaign. If you want to be in the 20% who makes money and basically guarantee your success to be in that 20%, you got to know where this line is before you start. So what that means is if you're generating leads, you have to figure out what your average lead close rates are, which you can easily figure that out if you go back through your call logs and all that, CRM, whatever. You got to figure out what your average deal size is. And I have people all the time say, Corey, I don't know my average deal size. Sometimes I get customers that spent this, and then sometimes they spent this. Average it out. Everybody can get an average customer, and that's what it's about here. What's the assumed amount of money I'm going to get when I do make a sale. And then from there, you could figure out, okay, I need an XYZ cost per lead. Then I know what cost per lead, where the actual target is I need to hit with my campaign to probably hit profitability. And maybe it's not exactly like that as it comes out, but at least it's close. But you at least have to have a target like that. And if you sell e-commerce, it's pretty easy. You've got your cost of goods, you'll figure it out. At the end of the day, you need to have so much revenue for so much ad spend, and then you know what you need to hit. So you'll draw out, I mean, you don't have to do this, but if you want to help yourself out, you can draw out a chart like this and figure out where that line is of what, for e-commerce, if it's revenue over ad spend, we call that ROAS, R-O-A-S, and you'll figure out where that is. And then you'll start out and then you'll chart it. And at month 1, you'll say, oh man, I only got 50% ROAS, I need 800%. Well, that's part of the game. Then month 2, you chart it again. Hopefully, it's going upwards. If you're going upwards, you're on the right track. Even though we don't have what we want, it's just like almost like you're building a body, you're trying to build muscle, or you're trying to lose weight. Oh, it's been a week, I'm not huge yet. Are you making progress? Okay, I lost 1 pound. Well, now you know the system works. Keep at it. So you need to know where your profit line is before you even start. Don't wait until you get into it and panic and say, oh, I don't know if I should stop or start again. No. When you get into it, know what to expect as much as you can before you even start, so you don't have to go through that for yourself. Especially if you're going to hire somebody to do it for you. So you know whether or not to put pressure on them. That's for my ad managers out there. Second, you need to know when you got there. So what that means is you've got your chart here. You know what target cost per lead or cost per sale or ROI that you need, or ROAS that you need for your campaign to be profitable. And you got a chart where you know where you're at in the scheme as you go through this starting out. You need to have tracking to be able to track your cost per lead, obviously then, or your return on an account spend. That's done through Google Tag Manager, Google Analytics, and if you're doing lead generation, you're going to use, I recommend CallRail, so on and so forth. If you don't, well, I'll just keep it simple and to that for this video. So you got to know your numbers, then you got to set up a way to make sure you know those numbers come in. Pretty self-explanatory. Lastly, you need to know, while you may have reached that line, so I should have wrote this. So you need to know, while you may have not reached your profit line yet, you at least need to know then your progress towards it to keep sane and during this process. Because what causes people to be in that 80% and of which stop too early, they don't know, they don't have faith in the program, and they don't know if it'll ever occur. So to eliminate the uncertainty in your mind, so you're not the one who gives up too early when you're digging for gold and the goal is just on the other side of one more shovel scoop of dirt away, basically, then you need to be able to kind of visualize where you're at. So you know your target, you know where you're at, and you know at least this month, instead of 50% ROI, we got 70% ROI. And then next month, okay, we only got 90% ROI, but it's trending upwards. You're looking for upwards, up and to the right, trending towards your goal. If you have that, you should assume that it's not a matter of if, but when. And at some point, it might plateau off. I'm not saying it won't, and you might have to restructure what you're doing. But at least then, if you're going to the general direction, then you know, okay, I'm investing in my future. Yes, it sucks, I'm losing money now, but I'm going to make it up times 100 once this gets over the profit line. And you generally will. Okay? So you need to obviously have that to let the ad platform optimize your ads, but also you using your data as it described to optimize your ads on your side too, on all available options. And I do mean all of them. Adjusting bids on what state the user's from or country, time of the day of the week. Why? Because again, there's some aspects of what you're doing that works and you need to keep them, and some that don't, and you get rid of them. And that's how you get to the point where this profit line breaks or breaches the point where, or it gets to your break even. So instead of profit, this should really say this is the break even line. So this is your profit line really, and at some point it'll break through what you know is the break even point, which if you break through break even, you know you'll run this long term and you'll add to it. You have money left over to reinvest back into it, that kind of thing. So now let's say you get into it though and you hit, right here, you're close to your break even line here, and you start to plateau off at this point, which will commonly happen. Okay, so first of all, you should be optimizing your ads all the time during this process. The more the better, but you obviously can't, you have to limit how much time you could spend towards it sometimes. But if you hit a plateau, sometimes that's not everything, because you can have seasonal changes that, for like a local business, your spring's always better than your winter. Well, you got to know that. And so if you plateau off for 3 months, that doesn't automatically assume it doesn't work. So don't panic and start unraveling everything you've done, because if you do that, the changes will screw with the ad system and the algorithm they have for your ads, which will cause even more volatility in the numbers. And then you make more changes, and then you can wreck everything. So you got to know when to act and when not to act. For me, I know that if you've been stuck for about 6 months already without improvement, where we're actually pointing and getting more progress to the break-even line, then you generally need to stop and look at what you need to cut out and replace it with, okay? So you're constantly, like I said, you're looking at your data, you're seeing what to cut out. And when I say cut out, I don't really usually cut out per se. If a keyword doesn't work very well, it's a matter of what should I be willing to spend for that keyword based upon what it brings in. Maybe I'm only willing to spend, instead of $1, 20 cents for this keyword. And maybe that only gets me a few clicks, but at least then I'm telling Google or whatever Bing what I'm willing to pay for that keyword, and then whatever it gets. But I'm no longer going to pay more than that for that keyword. Therefore, the overall ROI will be up from my account because that keyword's now running more efficiently. The same thing goes for time of the day of the week, what device they're on, and so on. You do the same thing, and you use what is called a bid modification formula that you can find on Google to do this. So if you get to the point where it is flat for 6 months, and basically what I would do at that point is you might have to do something more drastic. At that point, it's not a short-term fluctuation, because the other thing that throws people off is search demand, and demand for your product and service in general fluctuates month to month a lot. Generally speaking, over the course of a quarter itself, it'll be pretty stable. Month to month, it fluctuates a lot, and week to week, it fluctuates even more. And so basically, if I'm not looking at anything less than a quarter to see if I should start panicking at all, by the way, and I'm looking at that quarter to the previous quarter of last year if I have it. But for sure at 6 months, if I've been flat for 6 months or down for 6 months, then I know, particularly flat, then I have to do something more drastic. If you get to that point, okay, and you've done all the bid modifications, as I told you before already, that you normally do anyway, like once a month or once a quarter, and that's not getting you to progress to the break-even line you need to be at, then in terms of the order here, there's other things that you should do at that point. Basically, you stop, like I said, just stop your ads. You'll rehash what you're doing, and then you'll go back at it. Don't give up if this doesn't work for you immediately. Maybe it just takes a small tweak, and a lot of times it does. Of which, to the offer. Sometimes if your offer isn't right, then simply tweaking that, you'll get the rest of the way. Meaning, if you're a plumber, don't just say, I have plumbing services, hire me. It's not nearly as compelling as to say, we have special pricing this month. Call for that special pricing. Now, instead of getting, a 10% conversion rate on our page, we're getting 20%. And that was all it took. Consider an offer, if you don't have one, which a lot of people skip this for some reason, and or just changing the offer. Why this first? Do I change this first? When this situation of me being, stagnant for 6 months, at least, because it's the easiest thing to change and has a pretty big impact. And I don't have to unravel everything else, which may be working fine. And so I'll just try to, that's the low-hanging fruit, if you will. Next, if that doesn't work, I'll change the landing page. Now, people don't realize the landing page quality in terms of the look and style of it, in terms of building trust, because people judge a book by its cover, of course, and how it's laid out in terms of what they call don't make me think. People can easily scan through the page so that they don't have to think too hard. That's 50 to 70% of the equation of what you're making from that campaign. So if you do a poor job at the layout, but you have a good offer and you target it well, a lot of times that's just not going to be good enough. You need the landing page to be better. So you could take the landing page, go to somebody who it's literally, you have a conversion rate optimization person who understands consumer psychology, build you a landing page that has lots of experience just building landing pages to make you a page, relaunch it. Maybe again, instead of 10% conversion rate, you get to 20% that way, and maybe that carries you. Okay. One of the other things is it'll jump you in terms of being closer to your profit line right away when you restart your ads. But because of it's open, there'll be other things that didn't work before, certain keywords that didn't work before, that now keywords work. And so there'll be more ways than one when you adjust these first two things I mentioned in terms of your progress towards your goal. And, mainly though, how much volume is available, but also a better landing page and a better offer go into a better quality score on Google as well as Bing, which brings down your cost per click, which is a second way that you're going to be able to get closer to this break-even line by having adjusted those. So, and that's obviously pretty easy. You don't have to touch your campaign at all. Do a new landing page, launch it, and then at least we want, maybe if we don't get to our break-even line again, it's about, are we getting progress towards our line? Because we know if we got progress towards it and we're going up and to the right, we'll eventually get there to where we want to be, the holy grail place where now this campaign costs us nothing, and if it takes us 2 more years to really build things up, it's all free to me. And it's all a matter of time before we're making a ton of money from this stuff. We're just going to keep repeating what we've done. It'll slowly keep compounding the results. Yada, yada. Third thing I'll change, once I've already done offer a landing page, the keyword, changing keywords / if it's display advertising, we'll change the audience, how it's targeted, or potentially changing the platform. Maybe Google doesn't work, we'll go to Facebook. If Facebook doesn't work, maybe we try Taboola, that kind of thing. And I won't go too much into different platforms and different stuff like that, but then I'll try that last. Because then basically this is chucking everything we had before on the campaign, right? But at least then we verify we have an offer and landing page that we've maximized the results on. So we don't go and unravel our whole campaign until we know that we have something good there. And then usually if we've optimized the offer or landing page, now that we got that optimized, we add the right targeting on the ad, then now it'll for sure work, because these are the only 2 other main variables in the equation, okay? So anyway, that's in general, tells you when and you should pull the plug on a campaign, kind of how to pull the plug on it, and if you should pull it at all, basically. Whether it's too early to tell if you should stop what you're doing, or obviously too late, which means you're wasting more money than you need to, and you should actually stop, rehash, and then go again. If you like this video, I have a ton of other videos about different PPC strategies on this channel. You can go ahead and check those other videos out. You might be interested in those if you haven't seen any of my other videos before. I have a blog at guaranteedppc.com/blog, which has step-by-step instructions on how to build campaigns that are guaranteed to work. If you want information that's closer to along those lines as well. Apart from that, if you have any questions about what I said, leave me a comment down below. I get back to every single person who leaves me a question or comment on my channel within a day or 2. But I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope this put into perspective on how to get your campaign working, and to stop worrying, or to worry less about what you're doing in general, starting out trying to get PPC to work for you.